Hi guys, welcome once again to my YouTube channel, and on this episode we are going to be learning how to make this Bubu dress with a puff sleeve and also with an inseam lining. But before we get into the video guys, please do subscribe and like. Let's get into it. So like I said, we are going to be using a lining for this particular Bubu dress guys, because the main fabric we're going to be working on this project with is a very light fabric. So we're going to be using this material and it's called a doll face to line my main fabric. So whatever marking I'm going to do is going to happen on this my lining. Afterwards I will use to cut my main fabric. So let's get into it. So I'm going to start off by marking 1 inch from the starting point of my fabric, and I'm going to be marking it down. So this 1 inch is to enable us achieve the neckline. So I'm going to connect these lines with my ruler. So for my neckline, I'll be going in starting from the 1 inch border line. So I'll be going in by 4 inches. Then for my back neck depth, I'll be using 1.5 inches. And for my front neck depth, I'll be using 4 inches. Then I'll go ahead and connect this. Please, you can always use a curve to achieve the perfect neckline if you don't know how to use your hands. So the next thing we're going to be doing right now is to get the length of our sleeve. So I'm going to be getting my shoulder divided by 2 first. So this is for the beginners that doesn't know how to get the length. So from that my shoulder point, I will be marking 13 inches. So this is the length of my elbow, and I'm going to be adding an additional 5 inches to give the puff effect and also to fold for the elastic. So from my sleeve length, I'll be going down by 23 inches. Please do know that you can always do more or you can do less depending on how less puffy or more puffy you want your puff to be or your sleeve to be. But I'm going to be using a total of 23 inches. So I'm going to be measuring from my borderline point to where my sleeve length is going to be stopping. So I'm going to project it where my 23 inches puff length stopped. So this is to enable me get a straight line. So once I've projected that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect. So once I'm done with this, we are going to be marking the rest of the body measurements, which I'm using the biggest parts of the body, which is my hip. So I'm going to be doing hip divided by 4 plus 3 inches for ease, and 1 inch for sewing allowance. So before I can get into that, I'm going to be marking from my top. So I'm going to be projecting the 23 inches I marked on the other side. Like I said, this is to enable me get a very perfect straight line. I don't want a bent line. So from that point that I measured, the depth that I measured, I'm going to be projecting whatever I got. That's the division I made by dividing my hip divided by 4 plus 3 inches for ease and 1 inch for sewing allowance. So I'm going to project it on that line. So I'm going to be marking it, and I got 17 inches after doing my calculation. So I'm going to project my 17 inches. So to also get my straight line, I'm going to be measuring from my top to measure the 23 inches. So I'll use my ruler to connect it to the depth of my sleeve. So I'm going to be marking my 17 inches down to my hemline. And I will connect with a ruler. So once I'm done, I'm going to do a slight curve on this underarm. A slight curve, guys. You can always use your curve if you don't know how to do this with your hands. So I'm done doing this, and I'll go ahead and cut. But firstly, I'm going to be cutting only my back neckline. I'm done cutting, so I'm going to be using this front part of my bodice to cut my back. Guys, please do know that I'm going to be opening this shoulder line because it's on fold. Please, while placing your front bodice to be able to cut the back, please make sure it's starting on the 1 inch border line. So I'm done cutting, so I'm going to cut my front neckline now. Please do not make the mistake of cutting this front neckline together with the back. So I'm cutting this on only my front bodice. And once I'm done with this, I'm going to open up my sleeve, and I will use this fabric to cut my main fabric. So I'm done cutting my main fabric as well as opening my shoulder. So I'm going to measure in from my neck depth down. From my neck depth, I'm going to be measuring a total of 5 inches down. So this you're going to be doing on your main fabric, not on your lining, please. So I'll go ahead and sew from starting from my new neck depth downwards. So I'm done joining my shoulders, and I've ironed them. As you can see from my front lining, I did not join the front part. I did not join the 1 inch for the front part. My front part is open. As you can see, I only did the joining on my main fabric, which I started after 5 inches. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to turn my neckline. So I'm going to be turning the right side of my neckline. I'm going to be turning the right side of my fabric. And I'm going to be pinning the neckline of my doll face together with my lining. So I'm going to be facing the right sides. So I'm going to be pinning from the midpoint of my back neckline. I'm going to be pinning it to the front, as you can see me do. So once I'm done pinning, I'm going to go ahead and sew 1/2 inch. So I'm done sewing and top stitching. This is what it looks like after doing that. So next I'm going to be doing is to fold this part of my neckline, as you can see. So I'm going to make it face on one part of the fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and carefully pin this down. Please. So I'm done. I'm going to go ahead to follow my 1 inch line from the top. As you can see, I'm going to follow my 1 inch line and I'm going to sew it down. But please do leave about 20 inches or more. So this is what it looks like once you are done sewing the both sides. So this is what it's going to look like. So on this place, I actually left 5 inches, but I later loosed it to more than 5 inches. So if you're making this, please leave about 20 inches. So once you're done, you're going to pin your lining separately together, and you're going to sew until you get to the stopping point. So you're going to sew this until you get to the end point to meet the stitch. So this is what it looks like once I'm done. This is my neckline, and this is what the down part is going to look like once you're done stitching. Can you see how neat it's looking? So this is what it looks like. So once we're done with this, we will go ahead to sew our sides. So when sewing these sides, you're going to be sewing all sides differently. You're going to be sewing your lining differently. You're going to be sewing your main fabric differently. So pin and sew, leaving 20 inches for slit. So I'm done joining my sides. I'll go ahead to notch this underarm. If not, it's not going to be relaxed. And once I'm done notching, I'm going to go ahead and iron it open. Once I'm done, please be careful while doing this. So I'm done ironing my sides. I'm done ironing my sides, as you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my fabric to the front. So I'm going to take my time to arrange my sleeves. So I'm going to arrange it and do that on both sides of my sleeve. So I'll go ahead and pin my sleeves together, my lining and my main fabric. So I'm going to pin them together. So once I'm done pinning, I'll go ahead and fold my sleeve 1/2 inches twice, and I'll add my elastic. So I'm done sewing and adding my elastic. So this is what it looks like. So the next thing we are going to be doing is to sew our hem. So you're going to turn the front parts of your hem to the right sides and carefully pin it. This is going to look messy, guys, when you're making it, but always trust the process. So once I'm done, I'll go ahead and sew 1/2 inch, and I'll do the same procedure for my back. I'll pin the right sides, so once I'm done pinning, I'll go ahead and sew 1/2 inch for the front hem and back hem. So I'm done sewing my 1/2 inch, or rather joining my hem to my lining, and this is what it looks like. So once I'm done turning, I'll go ahead and iron it flat. So I'm done ironing, and the next thing we are going to do is to turn our fabric to the back. And on the side of my lining only, I'm going to be opening like about 5 to 6 inches or 7 inches. So once I'm done opening, I'm going to put in my hand, as you can see, and I'm going to be holding my hemline, and I'll bring it out from the opening that I did. So this is what it's going to look like, and I'm going to carefully meet these end points together, and I will pin. So I'm going to pin these until I get to my slit depth, or where my slit started, or rather where my stitch stopped. As you can see, so this is what it's going to look like. Please do take your time to do this, so you make sure those points are meeting, then you can pin the rest of the slit. So once I'm done pinning, I'm going to do the same procedure on the other side of the slit. So take your time to find it. This can be very tricky, but just take your time. So I'm going to be pinning again from my hem. So I'm going to be pinning this until I get to the end point. So you make sure they are meeting, all lines are meeting. So once I'm done pinning, I'm going to go ahead and sew 1 inch for my allowance until I meet to the end point of where this stitch that's my side stitch ended. So I'm going to meet it. Do not sew more than that, just meet that point, just sew to meet that point of where my side seam ended. And once you're done with one side, you're going to go ahead and do the same for the other side. So I'm done sewing, or I am sewing my slit seam. So from that same opening, I'm going to be bringing this out. So this is what it's going to be looking like once you're done. This is what it's going to look like. So I'm going to be doing the same procedure on the other side if you did not understand it. So you do the same thing by, putting your hands from the opening that we did. So I'm going to be doing the same thing for the other side of the slit. So I'm going to be pinning from my hem to the point where my side seam stitch ended. So make sure to arrange it and know that it is meeting, as you can see. So this is what it's going to look like. Make sure that it's meeting the both side seam. Then you go ahead and pin. So you're going to do this for the other side as well, and you're going to sew it with the sewing allowance, 1 inch sewing allowance. So once you're done pinning, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to be sewing from that point. Once you get to this point, you're going to be sewing to meet the end stitch allowance. So I'll do the same thing for the other part of the slit. So this is what it's going to look like. You pin it to make sure it is meeting. So once you're done pinning, you go ahead and sew like I did on the other side. You're going to sew to meet this stitch. You're going to sew to meet it. Do not sew more than the stitch, just sew to meet the stitch. So I'm done sewing my both side slits, and I've ironed it flat as well. So this is what your back is going to look like once you're done. This is your inner part of, this is the inner part of your clothes. And look how nice it looks. So the thing we're going to do is to cover up this opening that we created. So you're going to fold the lining on the right side together. So you go ahead and sew. Until you have nothing left to turn, meaning you're going to have like a slight space. So once we're done sewing, so you're going to have like a slight space like this, because when you're joining it at some point it's going to be difficult to keep sewing, so don't worry. So for the side seams, you're going to make sure that both side seams are fetching each other like this. So make sure they are they are facing each other like this, just like I'm showing you. So we're going to be covering it like this. So I'm going to be using my hemming gum to cover this little space. So I'm going to be introducing my hemming gum. I will just put it on that line, so follow the line so it doesn't touch the main fabric. And I'll go ahead and iron this flat. Please, if you're not using a steaming iron, please do endeavor to sprinkle some water so that the hemming gun can melt. So this is what it's going to look like once you're done ironing. I'll go ahead and iron some more. I don't want to hear a story. So I'm done, and this is how seamless, like you wouldn't even know that this was gum together. So this is what the inner part of my fabric looks like once I'm done. And this is the back. And this is the finished look after I have introduced my brooch. Guys, thank you for watching, and if you found my video very helpful, do not forget to subscribe, like, and turn on your notification button so you can get notified whenever I post new tutorials. And also, please do not forget to like and drop your comments in the comment section. Guys, your feedbacks are very important to me. Bye.